Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Hey, docs, welcome to another episode. This one I'm excited to have a friend and a colleague, Dr. Michael Nelson. We're going to interview him and kind of give you a play-by-play of his last 3 or 4 years of growth. Him and his wife, Kelsey, who's also a chiropractor, have really just substantially grown their practice in a very elegant and ethical way. And I wanted to bring him on today to discuss it and show you that you can do this the right way. You can be very clinically sound, patient-centered, and still make accurate decisions with your growth to build a just phenomenal practice and frankly a great life. And so we spotlight his journey on doing that, some of the things he's done, some of the thoughts he's had, some of the struggles, some of the opportunities, and what his overall goal is to continue with that growth mindset. And so I was fortunate enough to be a part of this journey over the last few years with him, and he came to me with so much going right, and he wanted to keep on growing, and just to see him and Kelsey really work through that with some delayed gratification, some great decision making, and having a growth mindset together, they are now in a position that's just fun, and we all hope to be there at some point. It doesn't happen overnight, and that's why I wanted to also bring him on, is to show that it wasn't like it was a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year thing. It was a process, and we really give you kind of a layout of what his thinking was with that. And so without further ado, here is my interview with Dr. Michael Nelson in Greenville, South Carolina. All right, welcome to the show. I've got Dr. Michael Nelson here that we're going to interview and dive into his growth over the last handful of years and give you a picture of how you can really transform your practice and your professional life in a lot of ways. And so I wanted to have him on here to dive into that. But before we do, Doc, tell us a little about yourself personally, professionally, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, awesome. My name is Michael Nelson. I am originally from Ohio and currently in Greenville, South Carolina. So I worked in athletic training for a long time, kind of leading up to that, and made the transition into chiropractic. So we started the practice in 2015. My wife and I, who's also a chiropractor as well, and we've, as Kevin said, had a lot of transitions and kind of growth factors and different elements that have kind of led us to a good place where we are today. That hopefully the momentum continues.
Yeah, definitely. So let's rewind a little bit and go back 3 or 4 years ago. You were, as you said, an athletic trainer. You took the leap in 2015 to open up a practice in an area you're not from, but you did well. You were doing good, and a few years ago, you kind of hit this ceiling of complexity of, okay, I'm doing fine, but you knew there was more to it and such. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I had a background in working with people and providing care, so I felt comfortable with that aspect. But like I'm sure many of us know, the business side of chiropractic is something that you kind of trial by fire that you learn. So we started right out of school. I didn't associate with anybody, and I don't think I knew entirely what I was getting into at the time, but had the gung ho to go through it. So it was a lot of work. I think that's one thing that I underestimated at the time. It was great to have my wife with me as well, so we could kind of partner through that. But it was a lot of work and kind of learning along the way. So the one thing I think early on that was difficult was just the amount of effort that you have to put in as an individual. You don't have the resources to have a huge team and to have a bunch of staff members. So you're really kind of the chef and the server and the hostess all at the same time. I remember one time actually we had a physiatrist that I kind of wanted to meet, and she brought her entire team. She had probably 3 or 4 nurses and came in, and this we just opened up, and so we had a decent sized office, but no people were there. So she comes in, I'm at the front desk, and she greets me and she's kind of looking around, and I take her through and kind of show her some of the stuff we do. And she's like, are you the only one in here? And I'm like, yeah, but someday we'll have a few more folks. So that was kind of a moment that, looking back now, was a long way from where we are today. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we've been working together for a couple years now, and I remember our first kind of chatting about things. It was, I was definitely impressed with what you and your wife had accomplished, and you knew there was quite a bit more there to it, and you didn't want to be stressed out. At the time, you had, two kids, and you did have Clemson there. So tell us a little. Actually, tell us a little bit about what you do with Clemson, and then what your wife does with the corporate side of things too, because I want to get
Sure.
paint a full picture of what you are doing now as a practice.
Totally. So I worked as an athletic trainer, which gave me, basically just ends with a lot of that world. And so I worked at Clemson previously as a graduate assistant, and had stayed in touch with their sports medicine staff. So one of the fortunate things that we were right out of the gate, was able to kind of start working with them, right when we opened. And so now that's even grown more, which has been fantastic. To where, at first they used chiropractic before, but it wasn't utilized to the fullest extent. And so having somebody there to kind of paint the picture, and help grow that, and show them that, hey, this is a great method of care, and this is something that is very valuable for our staff. We've progressed to where my associate goes now. I'm there 2 days a week at least now, and he's there a couple days too. And so it's been something that's really grown, from a trust factor, which has been awesome. So we provide care to the entire athletic department, from football, obviously, to all the Olympic sports, and kind of even staff in between. So it's been a really cool way to bridge the gap for a lot of people who haven't experienced chiropractic before. And then my wife also does corporate care. And so that was something that, kind of in that was probably the same week that physiatrist came in that I was talking about earlier. I was
Mhm.
sitting at the front desk, kind of waiting for the phone to ring, and another chiropractor called and said, "Hey, I'm doing this in a different area. There's a plant that would like to utilize the same thing. Would this be something that you're interested in?" And it's kind of one of those, like, moments where,
Mhm.
so I was waiting for a call like that, and so I started doing that for the first few years, and then my wife has pretty much taken that over, and so we do a lot of ergonomics, and preventative care types of things through a textile facility, in the region, and that's kind of progressed to a couple other sites as well. And so that's been a cool thing. We've got a lot of like moving parts, but
Mhm.
it's good to have diversity, and also there's a lot of consistency with those types of things as well.
Yeah, and but back then too, you and Kelsey probably the only two, and you had Clemson, you had corporate, and you had your main office. So you
Yeah,
had a lot of good things going on, but it was definitely stretching you thin. And so you definitely hit
totally.
that kind of ceiling of complexity where there was growth happening, but you needed to burst through that. So now let's fast forward to today. How were some of the things that, or what were some of the things you did to really break through that ceiling of complexity?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been really fortunate to have an amazing team. I think that's been honestly the biggest thing, is to have other people to help.
Yeah.
My wife is like an absolute rock star. You've met her
Mhm.
before, Kevin, but she's pretty much at home with our kids right now, kind of holding down the fort. We got four kids, all five is the oldest, five, 4,
Mhm.
and two 1 year olds. And so that's a huge job in itself. And
Yeah.
then she also does the corporate care side. So from an office standpoint, we've been able to grow our team. We have 10 staff members now, and from gym members to trainers that work in the gym, massage therapy, and then
Mhm.
Rockstar front desk. So I think that's been one of the biggest growth points. I mean, when we first started talking, I think my biggest desire was to have time. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
we were doing fine from a revenue standpoint, and lifestyle standpoint, and those kind of things, but
Mhm.
it was just, I don't think it was sustainable. And so to be able to kind of offload a little bit, hire an associate. So we've got an amazing associate, Dr. Yates, who has been able to kind of take on a lot of tasks as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the places to where, once we were able to kind of get the team in place, and then we moved to a new facility last July as well. And so the amount of growth that's allowed has been amazing too. So But having those people to just kind of help out, and not have to wear every hat and kind of do every aspect. And I was talking to Dr. Yates, yesterday actually about the early days, right, when you're just kind of grinding and you kind of do whatever you have to. And so
Mhm.
I would see people at lunchtime and skip right into the afternoon sessions and kind of
Mhm.
no wasn't really an answer. You just kind of figured out ways to do it. And so the awesome part on the back end of it now, and there's still plenty of room for growth, but it's almost like the momentum just kind of pushes you along. And now I feel like our numbers and growth has been better than before with less
Mhm.
personal effort, which has been an awesome thing too.
Yeah, and that's the kind of dichotomy that we're always looking for is like, how do we have more growth but less effort? And
Yeah.
you've been achieving that. And some of the things, you did it right out of the gates where you worked hard, you put in the time and effort, you had good margins, you were seeing good amount of people, you were getting out there and connecting. And so when you and I first started working together, you had the revenue and profits. You just
Yeah.
needed a little bit of guidance on, okay, now like how do I leverage some of this profits into growth? And obviously started out with hiring some team members to free you up. And then I remember having a conversation where it's like, we're renting this office space now and it's kind of stymieing us a little bit.
Yeah.
And you did the due diligence. You gave yourself plenty of on kind of runway to find a space, and you ended up purchasing your real estate. So tell us a little bit about that, and then
Yeah.
what your office is like now.
Yeah. So again, it was just kind of slow growth. I think when we first opened, our first office was, I think it was 2,400 square feet. And,
Mhm,
there were probably, there was a room that I used at first, and then Kelsey
mhm,
came and used a room, but we had 4 or 5 other rooms that we never even really used.
mhm,
And then just slowly kind of kept filling those rooms up with more and more stuff. And we got to the point where we maxed out the space. And initially I signed a 5-year lease. And again, kind of the naivety of not knowing business,
mhm,
it's looking back, it's like, wow, if I couldn't have made it, that 5 years was going to be on me type of thing. And so,
mhm,
but at the same time, we were a triple net lease. And so if something broke, we took care of it, we paid the taxes, we kind of paid everything like we owned it. And at the lease was coming to an end, and we kind of maxed the space out. And I thought, well, this space is fine, but we're capped, like we're not going to be
mhm,
able to do anymore. And I wanted to, from the get-go, to be able to have a gym that we could progress people from acute injury all the way to kind of lifestyle and fitness. And so all those were kind of in the plans. And the 5-year lease had come to an end. We hadn't found a space. I was able to renegotiate a 1 year lease because this was right in the middle of 2020. And so I think
yeah,
the landlords were trying to get whatever they could, and at the same time, I was hopeful that we'd find a space. And so
mhm,
we were able to do that. And then it was the lease, I think, ended in June. We purchased in November. And so
mhm.
it was one of those leaps of faith that, honestly, like, even just having conversations with you about,
Mhm.
hey, everything's going to be okay,
Yeah.
was huge. And we did the math, and
Mhm,
the rent wasn't much different than purchasing. The down payment was obviously, it was a big factor, but
mhm,
so it just made it a lot of sense. And so able to get that. The construction process took a little bit longer than initially anticipated. We moved in July, and now it's a little over 5,000 square feet. Again, we have kind of the full gym as well.
mhm,
And we've the growth from that alone has been awesome. And so it really is now a cool thing where when people come in, they get kind of the full tour and see that finish
mhm.
line at the end, and able to kind of take people to a place that a lot of people never thought they could do. And so the fitness side has been a fun thing. We've got great trainers, but it's something
Mhm.
that I think is a needed thing. There's a lot of patients who are either afraid to kind of work out because that maybe is kind of what brought them in to begin with, or they never
Yeah.
done it before, and especially in
Mhm.
the aging population. So it's been kind of a neat thing to work on that and kind of get that moving as well.
Yeah, and so it was July of 2021 you moved in there. So you guys have been over there for longer than a year,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. And you implemented the clinic gym hybrid model with the new
Yeah.
space and invested in more team members around that,
Sure.
which is really cool. And then the other thing I like what you're doing, because you've got a lot going on with Clemson, and your space is great. And so and obviously the corporate stuff as well. You brought on an associate who's been with you for a year and a half plus now, and that's going well. But you're also, and I want you to talk about a little bit, you're kind of turning your spot into a little bit of a destination, right? Like I know
Yeah.
recently you hosted DNS with Brett
Yeah.
Winchester, and preceptors, and like it's a every so like we love to see some of these clinics pop up throughout the country where it becomes kind of like a place where it attracts talent, right? And so tell us a little bit about that and some of your thoughts moving forward with doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I part of what happened with that, and I always thought that would be a really cool idea, but didn't know the logistics as far as like how to make that actually work.
Yeah.
And I was looking at taking a course. It was actually a dry needling course. I was looking at taking one somewhere, and the course got canceled because they didn't have enough participation.
Mhm.
And long story short, I was like, why don't I just see if people can come here? And so reached out to Brad, and Dr. Yates had worked with him previously as a student, and the first course, I think we had a little over 20, it's like 25 people that came in.
Mhm.
It was really cool to see, some athletic trainers from North Carolina and Clemson, and it was a cool moment to be able to say like, hey, it's cool to bring all these people together for
Mhm.
a great educational cause. And I think as chiropractors, that's always been the biggest thing for me, is to try to provide the best care. And so I'm big about trying to learn as much as possible, and to be able to kind of have that in house was a really
Mhm.
cool thing. So moving forward, I've reached out to a couple other folks too, but I think we'll try to kind of routinely have um, courses here, and host different events. You mentioned the preceptorship
Mhm.
part as well, and so we had our first preceptor in the old office, and again, I was actually talking to another guy last night, and he was asking some questions about what that looks like, and
Mhm.
said, well, when we first did it, I didn't really know what I was doing at all. It's just kind of, I wanted to be able to help people, right? And
Yeah.
so after that, I talked to Kurt a little bit about
Mhm.
how they do things at his practice, and it's such a cool thing to be able to provide students with talent
Mhm.
and education that you just can't get in other places. And so we've had a few more since then, and definitely something that we're kind of looking to continue to do, which I think has been a fun thing too, to try to provide them with some cool opportunities as well.
All right, Docs, here is a new opportunity for you from Darcy Sullivan of Propel. She is our SEO specialist in helping out many chiropractors with their search engine optimization and making sure Google is finding you and getting you new patients. It's amazing how many new patients chiropractors can get and are getting when they do the SEO right and a few other things. And Darcy is offering a free SEO workshop just for chiropractors, and you can sign up for that at bit.ly/propelmcm. That is bit.ly/propelmcm, modern chiropractic marketing, right? And so check out that link. And we're going to have you go over 5 SEO secrets to owning the first page of Google without buying ads. And Darcy's going to give that free workshop, 1 hour, to really help grow your practice and start churning new patients from the ever mighty Google, which is still king in the online marketing. So check that out at bit.ly/propelmcm for the 1 hour free workshop. Hey, Doc, are you moving office spaces, or you're a startup with your own new space, or you're like me where you need renovations because it's starting to look a little worn after about 10 years like ours is? Crossfield's Chiropractic Office Design is here to elevate you wherever you're at, and they're going to help maximize your space and flow. They're going to really help attract and retain patients, and this is going to have a great ROI on your investment when you increase that patient experience. So check out Chiropractic Office Designs by Crossfields, and we have a special link for modern chiropractic marketing listeners, and that is www.chiropracticofficedesign.com/Kevin-Christie. And with that, you're going to have discounts. We're going to have direct links to a mega bundle of free resources, and you can check them out, and you can get 15 of our most popular floor plans, 5-phase checklist for a startup office, 5-point designer checklist to evaluate your current office image, and there's 30% off on all online products when you go to www.chiropracticofficedesign.com/Kevin-Christie. Yeah, you're becoming a great resource for the profession, which is great. And you said something earlier about being, really patient-centered and clinically focused, and you are. And there's this, there's a subgroup, I would say, of chiropractors who feel like you can't be great clinically and also do very well business wise and
Yeah,
marketing or finances and all that stuff. And that was part of why I wanted to have you on as well, is because you are, a clinician, right? You
sure.
definitely are, and you provide great care. You do all the things, and you're doing it at a high level. But in the last 3 or 4 years, the growth you've had has been a big part of, because you are great clinically. There's no doubt that's the
Yeah,
table stakes, but but you've also been willing to learn sound business principles of,
yeah,
okay, I've got extra money every month in profit. I could go and buy a Ferrari, or, we could go and, have a second house down in Florida or something like that. But you had a little bit of delayed gratification, and we started working through how you can reinvest that money in
sure.
yourself and in your business. And it was a big part of it. And that's kind of the how, I think, the main how of what
Yeah,
you did. Can you speak to that a little bit?
absolutely. I mean, this is like I feel like I could stand on a soapbox about this because this is
Yeah.
just like something. I think at first when we started, um, I accepted that the model that we had was going to be the best for the patients that we had, but
Mhm.
I was going to have to eat it from a revenue standpoint, from a business
Mhm.
standpoint. And I think I never wanted to sacrifice the care, and that was
Yeah.
always something trying to figure out how can we still do this and be efficient, and how can we still make it make sense. And one of the things I think we've done, and I think this is any evidence-based clinician, anybody that
Mhm.
really is patient-centered, you build a great reputation, and
Mhm.
and that's something that I've wanted to protect kind of from the get-go, and um, knowing that, kind of like you said, these are long-term investments, and you're providing the best possible care for that person,
Mhm.
and remembering that you're serving them, they're not serving you, kind of thing. I think that's something that in chiropractic specifically, we can get confused a lot because there are those moments where you're like, well, if I did this, I can make some more money. But
Mhm.
always keeping that patient in mind and keeping their care in mind. And what we've seen is just from a marketing standpoint, we've been super blessed to have lots of patient referrals. We've had other physicians in the area who know that we provide great care, and they're referring patients to us. And so on the front end, it's a lot of work, and you have to kind of figure systems out and make sure that you're still being smart and conscious about the business side, but really putting that person first and that patient first,
Mhm.
and providing the best possible care that you can, makes everything kind of work full circle. And it's a fun thing to have people who have never had chiropractic care and to be that positive image and that positive experience, so that they're telling friends that have never experienced it before about what a great experience they had. And so
Mhm.
even this morning at Clemson, there were a couple of staff members that never gotten care before, and was able to kind of work with them. They're like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't know I was missing out, kind of thing. And so
Mhm.
for people starting off, it's you don't really see that, you don't see the long road, you don't see the kind of light at the end of the tunnel, but it's definitely an investment in the sense of building that brand and building that reputation,
Mhm.
and creating kind of that destination that people will go to. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that was like, so your, initial investment was, like you said, in your reputation, in your clinical aspect. And then it was like kind of the next investment was in a support staff, we'll call it, or support
sure,
team,
yeah,
to then
yeah,
allow you to focus on the things that are really going to move the needle.
yeah,
And so that was kind of step two. And then step three was kind of, I think, if I'm not mistaken, concurrently with step four, which would be, I'm not sure the order, but
yeah,
you needed space. So
yeah,
space is a big limitation in investment. So you invested in space, which is at a good return. So
yeah,
like basically you took, the investment in the team member, and then that made you more money, and then
yeah,
take some of that money and then invest that in that down payment in the space and the build out and all that, and then
yeah,
take some of that profits. Now that starts returning, and then you've had an associate that also then again provides great care and some more revenues and profits. And so it just becomes this little give and take of the
yeah.
profits to grow and have a strategy around that. And I would say that's been the big fundamental thing that you've changed.
I mean, it's a lot of leaps of faith. I mean, there's so many of those moments when you think about the cost of something, but you don't really think about the return, so to speak, or you don't really know what that's going to look like. And it's one of those things that each time we've had to make one of those leaps, you go with it, and it probably turns out better than you expected it to.
Yeah.
I think even with the associate we purchased here in November of 2020, and then hired him in January of 21. So it was a lot of moving parts,
Yep.
and everything's worked out fantastically, and so and then like you said, you can kind of see if you diversify a little bit, and you don't have to be the gas for everything, and you can have help in massage therapy and our gym and the associate. And, you're kind of all those little pieces make the machine work more
Yeah.
efficiently, and so that's been a really cool thing to see too. The weight, I think, of being a solo practitioner and starting off on your own is a
Mhm.
lot when you're trying to juggle all different aspects. But the cool thing is when you can kind of create the practice and the systems, people still get that world class care. They still get an amazing experience, and you're not the one that has to wear all those different hats kind of walking around, which is
Yeah.
which is fun.
And one of the nice things about having a well, evolved team, and you have 10 now, is you end up having a fair amount of redundancies in your practice. So if you lose a team member, someone can step in, whether there's a second person that does that same role, or if it's someone
Sure.
that's kind of a hybrid, and so the practice becomes very stable in a lot of ways, right? Like you and your wife can
Yeah.
I know you just went to Denver with your wife, and you
Yeah.
didn't have to
Exactly.
shut the practice down now. Whereas,
Yeah.
3 years ago, you would have shut the practice down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those that just the freedom of kind of that has been such a huge thing. You
Yeah.
just mentioned we went to Denver last week, and it was something that the entire time that I was there, I didn't worry about. What are things looking like back here,
Mhm.
and even Dr. Yates was able to cover a Clemson shift for me, and so
Yeah.
like having those great people, and people that buy in with you and your message, and kind of
Mhm.
the purpose and goal of what we're trying to achieve, has been huge. So again, I can't thank our team enough for
Mhm.
what they've kind of helped create. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm speaking at the conference in Ohio, so I know you're from there. So I'm going
Yeah,
to be in Columbus, Ohio. Going to have
awesome,
dinner and drinks with Mark King and Rich Olm a little bit because they'll be there
cool.
as well. And I'm speaking on marketing, but one of the things I'm going to really touch on early on is a lot of chiropractors are falling into this. They're busy, but they're broke. Um,
Yeah,
or they're busy and they're not broke, but they're broken, right? And they're just like,
yeah, yeah,
and under that broken umbrella would be overwhelmed and
sure.
frustrated and stressed and burned out. Um, and I wanted to spotlight you because you've done the things. It's not easy, but like they say, there's like this common saying now is like choose your hard, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so you could have the heart of being a solo practitioner forever, or you could have the heart of growing and managing and leading a team. And on the other side of that, the learning curve of growing a team, and that is a lot more freedom and growth, and you're definitely
absolutely.
there. But I know you don't have a fixed mindset. So what's next on the horizon for you?
Oh man, I think we've done a good job of improving. The gym was a brand new thing, and trying to kind of get the
Mhm.
what all that looked like. So I had some great help with that. I had a few friends from actually other chiros that both were strength coaches, back for professional teams, and then one of the guys at Clemson, that we've got a really good system in place from that standpoint. We've talked about possible expansion, as
Mhm.
far as maybe another satellite location, and so that's something definitely in the background and in the mind, and continuing to refine our systems too. I think
Yeah.
in the sense that this year, I think the Clemson thing has jumped, and we've talked about this a little bit more, but the demand has been a lot higher, and so
Yep.
that shifted time away that I had from a management standpoint and, and,
Mhm.
and admin standpoint. And so making sure that kind of we're staying in that balance as well.
Yep.
That's, I think, is a big thing on the horizon. But satellite offices, and kind of continuing to spread the stuff that I think we've done well.
That's cool. It's always exciting to see you grow. I haven't even really mentioned it out into the chiropractic, profession at this point. But a few months ago, we transformed MCM, as you know, and we're now doing a lot of the marketing, production, and distribution for
Yeah.
our members, including your office. And so we've been able to take the marketing off your plate in a lot of ways. We have you shoot a handful of videos per month, and then we take them, brand them, just edit them, distribute them all through all your platforms, and essentially now you've got a content marketing strategy being done for you. You're the talent. You and your doctors are the talent, and we take the rest from you. And so we ran into so many of our chiropractic clients through MCM Mastery that were doing a lot of good things, but then you get busy again, and it's like, okay, like, who are we going to
Right.
offload some of this production and distribution off to? And we decided, you know what,
Yeah.
let's start doing that for our members. And we converted everybody to that kind of model, which has been great. And it's been, I think, 3 months now, and it's been
Yeah.
a learning process for us. And I know for our members and stuff like that, but I think going into 2023, your practice is going to have so much marketing collateral going on, which will be
Yeah.
nice.
And it's been great. I mean, so far, I mean, it's one of those things. Like you said, we were practiced where we get gung ho and kind of do a lot of stuff for a few months, and then you get busy with the practice and every other aspect of life, and then it kind of shifts more into patient care, and then you're
Yeah.
like, oh wait, I need to do more marketing now, and so you're just kind of constantly flipping this back and forth, which leads to just inconsistency. And so the awesome thing, we've been able to just shoot 3 or 4 videos a month, send those, they edit everything, distribute everything. The Dr. Jason and I both have talked the last few weeks. We've had several existing patients come in and say, hey,
Yeah.
your videos have been fantastic. I've loved reviewing that. It's the same stuff that we're doing in the practice itself. And so it's been a good reminder for us to continue. And so you kind of forget about, I think in marketing, a lot of times we think about new patients and trying to kind of get the new guys in. But that continual branding with the existing patients has been fantastic as well. So yeah, it's been a great service so far.
Yeah, it's been fun to do that. It was I recorded a solo episode a few weeks back on return on investment in myself, and that was one of them where I didn't really dive into it too much on that episode, because we really have just kept it mostly to our current members, but we're going to release that here soon to new people. But it was such a, talk about adding team members and growing, and it's been quite a show back here getting that done, and investing a lot into having the team around me, whether
Yeah.
it's in-house or outsourcing to certain experts, and putting together a really good team to be able to do this. It's been quite a learning lesson for us. And that's why we essentially beta tested it with our current members and say, hey, look, we're not raising the price on you, but we're going to offer something completely added on and see how it goes. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback so far. So thanks for you were one of our early first 3 beta testers. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. And
Yeah.
like I said, I think for us, that was a huge problem that I knew was there that I hadn't found a great solution for. And so I think, it was the perfect solution for one of our biggest holes. So
Yeah, I think it's going to help grow your practice even more, and it'll help those satellite offices.
exactly.
Cool. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. This was good. I'm trying to have docs on that aren't necessarily, out there with services for chiropractors, more docs that are just, in the trenches, growing
Sure.
great practices, great clinicians, showing other chiropractors that, you don't have to be a starving artist. You can be
Yeah.
a thriving chiropractor. And I appreciate you coming on today.
No, thank you. It's been an honor, and appreciate all your help getting here. So
Definitely. Have a great day.
thank you.
That is it for this week's episode. But before you leave, check us out at www.modernchiropracticmarketing.com for all kinds of free resources, such as blogs and the podcast episodes. We've got online courses. You can check out the Chiropractic Success Academy there, which is an amazing online coaching system for you at a very affordable monthly rate. There's a free online course on the modernchiropracticmarketing.com website, so check that out. If you're interested in some coaching, we can do that as well. We have all kinds of resources for you there. And we would also truly appreciate if you could rate and review this podcast if you're getting valuable information out of it. I can't thank you enough, and we'll see you next week.